Good evening, Running Mulleteers, and welcome to the Running Mullet, episode number 32. Sitting next to me, for those of you that are watching live, is...
Me, Becky.
Me is Becky Kosek, my amazing wife. She is kind of, filling in. Grace can't be on tonight, and she is here to talk to us a little bit about what she did this past weekend. So, without further ado, let's get going. Grace is not present, and my feelings are sad, but I have my wife by my side, and that makes me glad. Another Monday is here, and it's episode number 32. The colors of the show are black and blue. Let's go. I'm Eric, Idiot Runner Kosek.
And I'm Grace, Hot Pants Langheim. Eric is all business in the front of the pack, and I am all about the party in the back.
That's right, business up front and party in the back. Together, we are the Running Mullet.
And we are going to talk about every aspect of running, the podium to the DNF and everything in between.
If you are a runner, this show is for you. Now sit back, get out your foam roller, and enjoy the party. All right. Welcome, everybody, and thanks for tuning in. Tonight, we have two amazing female athletes on. One to talk about what she did this weekend, and the other to talk about what she does for a living. First off, let's get started with this past weekend and what I did, because let's be honest, that's the most important thing, is what I did and what my weekend was. No, I'm just kidding. Becky and I were both out at Oil Creek 100 miler, which is Western PA. A race, 100 miler has been going on for 14 years, I believe. This was its 14th year. And Becky has run it. This was her second 100 mile, and she ran the 100K once. There's also a 50K option. And this year there's a 25K option. Last year, and I'll let her tell the story, but last year she ran just over 22 hours and 13 minutes. 22 hours and 19 minutes. And anybody that knows Oil Creek, if you get sub 22 hours, you get a golden buckle for doing it, fast enough. So she missed it by 19 minutes. She had some IT band issues last year, which slowed down her whole third loop. Mm-hmm. This is a loop race of a 50K loop. So you do it 3 times with a little ending loop that they call the going home loop of 7-ish miles. Right. So she came back this year for redemption, and I will let her take it away from here to give you a quick recap of how that redemption went this weekend.
He's right. That's exactly why I went. I came back to get under 22 hours, and hopefully even I had really good intentions of being faster than that, and really thought it was going to be possible. And I think on a good day, it would have been possible. But that was not my day this weekend. Starting out, like I generally am a very positive person, unlike other people. And I just started out even doubting it and just not feeling very good. And I got going once we entered the trail, the single track, it was dark and there's so many leaves, and I ended up falling at like mile 4 and got a pretty big bruise on my quad, my right quad. So like every step flexing it caused me pain. And then every time you would stop at an aid station, it would tighten up and it was hard to get running again. I wanted about 6-hour 50K loops. That's what I was aiming for. Even not feeling great, I came in my first loop in just under 6 hours. So it was still possibility. My second loop was a little bit slower, but halfway through I had some ibuprofen and pizza and Coke. And about 20 minutes later, I had just finished a climb and was getting going, and I felt so much better. It was the first part of the day that I actually felt happy to be out there, and I felt good, and I was able to run really well for about 15 miles. I finished that loop just over the 6 hours, and I was starting to not feel so great again. It was way too early to take more ibuprofen, and I was picking up Eric. So I was hoping, we could at least continue somewhat of that going and not be that long. And my third loop, it was just a disaster. I didn't want to run, and my leg hurt, and then I started having stomach issues, which I generally never have. Very, very seldom have I dealt with any sort of stomach issues. So needless to say, my third loop took like over 8 hours, way longer than it ever should have. It was very frustrating. I picked up Lauren for the going home loop, knowing that there was no possibility of hitting 22 hours. It was just get it done at that point. Lauren was great, chatted my ear off, and kept me moving and not thinking about it so much. I was able to start running again kind of on the way back and finished just over, I don't know, it was like 23:30, I think. So, I mean, I'm happy I got sub 24, and I am trying to be happy that I finished and what I did, but it's just frustrating that it wasn't what I was hoping for.
Yeah, and she what she did was she won the race. She was first female, third overall. But it's what we've talked about on the show before, and what Becky and I talk about a lot is you don't necessarily have to be last or getting ready to DNF to still have those feelings of, you're not reaching your personal goals. So it's not really what you came for type of thing. So it's the devil in your head saying, why am I still going? But it's funny. It's like we were talking about on the third loop. It's like, you have to keep going because you're in first place. You're winning the race, even though you're frustrated because you're not going to meet your goal that you set for yourself. So I guess it's something. It's like it's all about perspective in a lot of ways, but it's really hard to see that perspective when the world's falling apart of what you trained for and what you want to do, and knowing that Becky will agree. She has the athletic ability to get that sub 22. She knows it. Everybody else around her and her people that look up to her know it. But yet I'm sub 24, and any 100-miler is still a phenomenal time. And again, first place, should be pretty happy. So it's all about perspective.
Yeah.
And the power of the mind, which is what, our guest that's coming on tonight here shortly is hopefully, going to talk to us about how to get through that, how to possibly change your way of thinking and things like that. But all in all, it was a pretty great weekend. The weather held out amazing. Mm-hmm. The trail stayed dry. Another friend of ours, Carla Tardier, she finished her first official trail 100-miler,
yes,
which was
awesome.
Amazing. I had a couple of athletes that were out there who ran their first 100-mile. Tim Schwartzer,
Bob Bauer
killed it. Bob Bauer. A lot of our local friends did it. So it was a great weekend and a success all in all. Just she'll go back and do it at some point. Just have to
change my mindset of it.
So anything else you want to say about that race? Or are we moving on from there, thinking about your next big one?
Yeah.
So anyway, let's move on. We have a amazing athlete, amazing guest on tonight. I met this person up in Canada, I guess before I went to Canada. Her name is Holly Grahn, and I think I'm saying that last name right, and I'll confirm when she comes on. But she is a life coach and hypnotherapist, and she, for the Divide 200, which was the 200-miler I ran a couple weeks ago, that I made it to 125-ish miles at. She offered to give hypnotherapy sessions. I don't know how she would word it, but the power, to change your mind, to make sure you stay positive throughout these races and don't get into the funk of life sucks, I want to quit, and I'm never doing this again type of thing. So I'm going to bring her on and we can go from there. Holly, thanks for being on.
Hi, thanks for having me.
Yes, anytime.
I'm excited to be here.
So this is an amazing topic. I'm excited to talk about it. I'm very open-minded about it. I don't know much about it. I never have done it. I haven't talked to you about it much at all, other than, it intrigues me because, you and I have talked about a little bit about, what I struggle with as far as mental strength goes. And Becky and I have talked about it too. And I think a lot of athletes struggle with it, whether they feel like it's really affecting their races or it's something that could just be tweaked to possibly help them any way they can. And the way I look at this ultra running, and I'm sure you do and everybody else, I hope everybody else does too, is I'll take any tool that I can put in my toolbox to help me get better at this sport that I love. I'm competitive by nature, and it's something that intrigues me, for lack of a better word. So I hope I kind of hit your background a little bit. If you want to take it from there and kind of talk about talk about you as an athlete and what got you into this line of work, and we'll go from there.
Absolutely. I'm so excited to share more about this, as I know how powerful the mind is. And Becky, congratulations. I know it's hard. I have had some races this year where I was ready to just crush it, and things came up for me that I wasn't expecting. And I'm going to have to go back and do it again. But I know that I'm capable of more, but it just wasn't my year. It was a year of learning. So I feel for what you're going through, and congratulations to you for persevering.
Thanks.
I know it's not easy.
It's not, but I think it's one of those things where, like, in the moment, you're just not happy with it. But then, even today, I hope it's like, you just ran 100. She just ran 100 miles, and for anybody to do that, you should be proud of it.
Absolutely. It's a lot to be proud of. Absolutely. I think it's normal to go through those feelings of disappointment, but also to move through them and look at what you do have to be proud of.
So what have you done as far as running and ultra running? What's your resume show? Name your big ones?
Absolutely. So I've done the Sinister 7 100 miler. That one I actually finished over the time limit. So I'm really excited to go back and finish well under the time limit. That's my goal. And to take what I learned from this year and make it happen. I know that I was able to persevere despite what was going on for me because of the tools that I had to persevere through that. So I'm happy that I finished and that I, moved through it. I've done a race it's in Whistler, just outside of Vancouver, BC, and it's called Whistler Alpine Meadows. It's a big mountain race. It's no longer going, but it was a fairly big mountain race. There's another one called Fat Dog 120. I've done that one as well. I don't know if you've heard of that one, but it's a hard rock qualifier. It's an amazing, amazing race. And I've done a few 100Kers as well. I've done quite a few of the Sinister Sports races. I absolutely love them. And I recently did, what's that one called? Lost Souls Ultra as well. It's a 100 miler.
Haven't you done the Canadian Death Race?
Yes, I have. Yes. Okay. Yes.
It's also important to note that she's from British Columbia. So all these races, a lot of my viewers probably, I don't know if they've heard of them or whatever, but Canada does have some amazing races up there. It's just a matter of us getting up there, getting across the border and doing them. I've heard great things about that Canadian Death Race, that it's obviously it's hard. But yeah, Fat Dog 120 has been on my list for a while. And same thing, it's just making it work to get out west to do it.
It's an incredible race. And you have so many amazing races in your country that I can't wait to do.
Yeah, we're lucky where we live. The community's big, and it seems like, around here, there's during the summer, fall, spring, and summer, there's you can find something pretty local on any weekend.
Absolutely, there's so many.
Yeah,
That's amazing.
So it's nice. So hypnotherapy. All right. So
Yes.
here I am. I'm an ultra runner. And, every time I run, not every time, but, in any long ultra or 100-miler, it's tough to keep your head in the game and stay positive the whole time.
Absolutely.
So what can I do to fix that?
That's a great question. Hypnotherapy is a great space where we can really dive into that and to figure out what's going on. In the moment, there's a number of things that we can do, definitely. Focusing on the positives, of course, can be really helpful. And there's lots of visualization tricks that we can do, but I think it's helpful to be really proactive on that one. And really, the power of visualization can be quite helpful, to visualize yourself really pushing through the hard times in the race. Visualize yourself in different situations in the race and really powering through that and overcoming it. So your brain is kind of trained to move through it. So I think it's important to be really proactive in these situations. In the moment, it can be helpful to focus on obviously positivity and the positives as well as, kind of having a visualization for yourself. Like we know Courtney Dauwalter has her pain cave, or she pictures herself chiseling through the pain cave, finding a visualization that you can use for yourself and really focusing on that and focusing on pushing through that. Another thing that could be really helpful as well is really getting back into the zone. So when you're actually, it's funny, when you're in the zone, when you're, in the flow where you feel like you're just running and it feels so effortless and time and space just goes so quickly, you kind of lose sense of time. You're just really in there in the moment, focusing on every footstep. That's hypnosis. So hypnosis is actually a natural state of highly concentrated focus. And so getting yourself back into that natural state of highly concentrated focus can be really helpful as well. So getting back into the moment instead of stressing about what's going on.
So the key is to stay in that state of concentrated focus throughout the whole 100-miler.
Exactly. Exactly. Try and stay in that flow.
Right.
Can be really key, right? So focusing on like what you see, what's in front of you, the ground beneath your feet, the things that you can hear. So really connecting with your senses and really kind of getting focused and getting back in that state. And it also depends on what's going on for you. If you're in the negative state, why are you in that negative state? So do you have an injury and you're feeling a bit of pain? You can visualize turning down the pain and turning up. Like I like to use this term called badass mode, where you get into this mode. And when you're in badass mode, it feels there's just a total different energy about it. So you can even create like an alter ego for yourself that you step into when you're running, or, just really turning down the volume on that and turning up the joy.
I like that. So it's basically getting out of your own head. I mean, for lack of words, right?
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I think sometimes too, like for me, this is what helps me. And I know everybody's different, but finding the humor in things can be really helpful, and just kind of being more playful and fun and remembering that, because it can just kind of bring me back into that joy as well, and take me away from the pain and the negativity.
So a lot of it, you would say, is visualizing what possibly could go on during the race before it happens. Is that right? I mean, because a lot of times I'll tell, athletes that I try to help out, I'll tell them before the race, or 3 weeks before the race, or 2 weeks before the race, when they're starting to get butterflies and get antsy, I said, one thing you can do is just, for one, visualize yourself crossing the finish line. What's it going to look like in your head? Literally, what's it look like? Because that's step one. Obviously, the goal is to get to the finish line.
Absolutely.
Right. But from there, and what you're saying is, do you visualize everything that could go wrong, or are we only focusing on what's going right?
I think it's powerful to do a bit of both, to visualize obviously things going right and to visualize that positive and being in that positive space, but also visualizing the things going wrong, like the weather. Maybe you don't want to visualize yourself with an injury because you don't want to create that in your mind, but visualizing maybe the weather and persevering. So it's more the process of visualizing yourself persevering through the tough times.
Gotcha.
And using that, strengthening the mind that way, because we know ultras don't go perfectly. They don't usually go as planned, unfortunately. There's the odd race that everything's locked in and feels good and you feel like you're crushing it, but there's a lot of races that don't go well.
Yeah.
So yourself, is being in the game of this hypnosis and a life coach, do you do anything in particular personally to prepare for any of these big ultra races?
Absolutely. Absolutely. So I do a lot of visualization myself, and I have my own therapist that I've worked with, because in the past, when I was running, I used to be somebody who would run more towards the back of the pack, which is totally fine. But I felt like I was always chasing cutoffs, which is an awful feeling. And I was really hard on myself, and I saw myself as this slow runner, and I would let myself off the hook at times as well. And so I actually had my own hypnotherapist that I went to see to kind of overcome that, and to realize my own strengths and abilities, and to reframe those limiting beliefs that I had about myself, which was helpful. And now I'm running more towards the middle of the pack and finishing before the cutoffs in most of my races. So that, and it's nice to feel like I'm not chasing anymore. So I've seen a huge improvement by being proactive and taking those steps to do the work myself and get to the root of what's really going on for me. And I think that's where the magic is, when it's like a weed, right? We can chop it off at the surface, but really there's something deeper going on. And I think a lot of us have something deeper going on, limiting beliefs, things that are holding ourselves back. I mean, I think a lot of people only operate at a fraction of their potential. So it's really getting to that weed and pulling it right out. So I like to be really proactive in advance and kind of figure out what's going on for me. As well, it's helpful to create that alter ego ahead of time, that badass mode that I can put myself into, and create this toolkit for myself. So one thing too that's really helpful for me is like, the pain doesn't belong to me, right? It's kind of like I can dissociate from it sometimes, or I turn down the volume on the pain, or, I'm just waiting for it to come, and I know it's going to come, but I also know I can push through it. So it's really having a toolbox full of tools that I can bring, as well. So being proactive and then having those tools. And I think another thing is like really visualizing. So I take time to visualize myself every part of the race. If I've run the race before, it helps because I can go through the whole course within my mind. But staying focused, feeling that energy of running and feeling like I'm running my best and pushing through, bad weather or tough times during the race, and making it across that finish line. So, and visualizing that over and over and over again can be really helpful too. So it's a combination of things, if that makes sense.
Yeah. So the whole visualization thing, I mean, let's get into the technique of hypnotherapy a little bit, and how you do it, or how you would recommend somebody, has a big race coming up, they want to take advantage of everything they can. So they want to utilize this technique. What should they do? And I'll start this off by saying, you put out a free half-hour roughly YouTube session to people, runners that were doing the Divide 200. I forget what you titled it or what it was called, but it was basically a pre-race visualization to get your mind in the game, right?
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
And I, after work one day, I saw that, and I had an hour to my, free. So I figured I'm going to listen to this and see what she has to say. So I laid on the couch and I turned it on, and it was, and I will tell you, this is the first time I ever listened to anything like any kind of hypnotherapy, anything. But it was very soothing video, and,
good.
it was probably 10 minutes in, and I fell asleep. Just because I always fall asleep when I get home from work. It's
absolutely
the video, but I was tired and I was listening to it and I fell asleep, and I woke up because I had to set my alarm in like 5 or 10 minutes because I have to go to cross country practice. But anyway, I woke up and you're still talking, and I thought, I wonder if I got anything out of it. Like, I wonder if that's the best way, the way that you're supposed to kind of listen to this stuff is, full relaxation. Yeah, I might have fell asleep, but it's still playing. So I possibly could have been, absorbing it one way or another through my ears and my brain. And but having done that, it was I'm a light sleeper, so the fact that I fell asleep while your voice was talking says something right there. But
absolutely.
What, as far as technique goes, I guess, let's just start with the basics. I mean, how would one go about this visualization techniques?
Well, one thing I want to mention is that hypnotherapy is a deep, concentrated state of focus, but you're also deeply relaxed. And a lot of times people do fall asleep or can fall asleep to hypnosis. And that's okay. Like, your subconscious will still take in, it's always listening. So it'll still take in the information. And when you're that relaxed, it's almost like you can really bring it in more. And when we get you into hypnosis, when you get in fairly deep, you're able to really absorb that information. So you're more impressionable and able to really absorb those suggestions. I've had clients who fall asleep every session because they're tired and they've got like busy lives and things going on, and they have still seen dramatic results. So I know it to be true. It is more helpful if you're not asleep, where you're just kind of in the phase where you're relaxed, but you can still benefit from it in that aspect. So with the visualization, there's many things that you can do, which I know makes it a little bit complicated, but there's just so much you can do with hypnotherapy and visualization. But one thing that I would recommend starting with is really getting nice and comfortable and relaxed. And really, one thing that could be helpful is connecting with your inner resources. So knowing that you have these inner resources and the strength within you to handle anything that comes your way. So that can be really helpful in building your own confidence, as we all have our own abilities and resources that we can draw on in a race or in an event or in life, right? And sometimes we forget about that. Like, certain people are courageous or persistent, right? We all have our own strengths that we can bring. So really connecting and reminding ourselves and really ingraining that in ourselves, that we do have something that we bring to the table and strength that we can use to move forward. So that can be really helpful, as well as kind of really visualizing that. Sometimes even visualizing those roadblocks. So sometimes I like to, with my clients, like, it's like, okay, so you've got your hydration pack on, and now you've got these rocks in your hydration pack. And these rocks represent your own limiting beliefs and blockages. And you could even visualize, like, okay, I feel like I'm not good enough, or I feel like whatever the limiting belief or blockage is, putting it into that rock and putting that energy and just throwing that rock away. And now feel your hydration pack on your body. So in hypnotherapy and visualization, our emotional brain is highly creative, highly imaginative. And so using the imagination is really important. It's like creating a metaphor for the brain, if that makes sense. So
yeah, very much so. And I mean, I think that's huge. And that's one thing I wanted to talk about a little bit with the whole hypnotherapy thing. And again, I'm coming at you as I'm not going to say non-believer, but I'm 50-50. Like, I can go both ways right now. And a lot of people have to have science behind things. So, you're saying with the using your mind and the rocks and throwing it away. So if that worked for me, that would be amazing. But the bottom line is that makes no sense in reality. But it shouldn't matter. To me, it doesn't matter. If something works, and I was talking to Becky before the show, I said, if I carried a feather with me in my pocket for some reason because it was pretty, and I had an amazing race, there's nothing wrong with always running with a feather in your pocket from that point forward. Whether it makes any sense or not, if you feel like it helps you, then why wouldn't you do it?
Exactly.
Right?
Exactly. Absolutely.
It can be something ridiculous, but it's why wouldn't you do it?
Exactly. If you feel it helps you in any way. And the thing is too, with the rock, it's a symbol, and it's a symbol of really connecting, like throwing away the negative and pushing or focusing on the positive. Now, I agree with you in a sense, like, at the same time, I think that's why it's really powerful to connect with a hypnotherapist beforehand and get to the root of the issue. So having that interaction and figuring out, okay, what are those, metaphoric rocks that you're holding on to, those limiting beliefs, and really getting to the root of what it really is. Because only you will know that. And then you're able to, what we're able to do is put those positive suggestions in there and look at things from a different perspective. Because when you're in hypnosis, you're also able to see things from a different perspective. It's like kind of channeling out the outside noise and being really focused in, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I mean, and it's also interesting to point out that the sport of running and ultra running seems like the longer you go, the more interesting people you might come across.
Yes.
But we all have our stories of why we get into run. A lot of people have stories why they get running, and some are pretty deep, some are pretty personal, some are just phenomenal. Turn their whole life around type thing, which are some of my favorite ones. But there's all these different reasons of why we get into running, and I guess a lot of the best runners out there are good because they have very strong minds, and we're able to break away from addiction or overcome some horrific family tragedy. I'm just coming up with examples. But I wonder, what makes somebody have such a strong mind, somebody that hasn't gone through hypnotherapy or anything like that. I wonder what's ingrained in certain runners or people's brains that keeps them strong. Or am I overthinking it and it's just very simple and they know how to deal with their devil in their head a lot better than myself?
That's a really good question. I think it's such a relative question to the person and what they've been through. And maybe somebody has been through something hard and knows how to overcome it, or maybe it's their attitude towards it.
Right.
Yeah, it would be interesting to kind of pick somebody's brain of somebody who is already super strong mentally.
Yeah, and even the ones that I say are super strong, I'm sure they're strong in that aspect of how their brain works and what they're doing at that time. That doesn't mean they don't lack willpower stuff in different areas of their life too. I don't know.
Absolutely.
What do you think? You have anything to add to this? You're
No,
just taking it all in?
Yeah, it's very interesting.
Yeah, it is. And that's why I like it. Like I said, none of it has to be science, but it's, if it can change mindset, then why wouldn't you do it?
Absolutely. Well, and our perception is often our reality, right? So when we have like a positive mindset, that's more what we get. We get more of that.
Right. And the bottom line is, everybody should be okay with changing their mindset. We shouldn't be set in stone about, it's my way or the highway, and my way of thinking is totally fine. And it's also okay with saying, I need help with figuring out how to fix my mindset.
Absolutely.
For me in running, it's like, I would love to know, figure it out. And it's for you, like a couple of things you said are just good techniques to use with the whole rocks thing, and obviously visualization. I could probably focus more of my training on visualization of the race itself and the negatives and positives for me, what could go wrong. And so maybe I could expect it more or something. I'm not sure.
Absolutely. That can be helpful, as well as, so if you have a race that maybe didn't go well, visualizing like you're rewinding the tape and then doing it over. And so what that does is it reinforces it in the mind, and the mind doesn't know the difference between time, right? And so you can feel it in your body. You can create more positive habits within the mind by visualizing it.
Yeah.
And you can play out different scenarios, like, okay, so this didn't go well, and I learned something from it. So now taking what you learned and moving it forward.
Yeah, that's easier said than done.
Is it?
I don't know. I think so. I don't know. It's all good stuff. So When you run these ultras, the longer stuff that you've done, do you have a crew and pacers and things like that, or do you go solo?
I go solo for the most part.
Nice.
Thanks.
I did that in Montana this summer. Well, no, I didn't. I still had a crew. I've yet to do like a longer ultra, totally solo, and I want to just to see what it's like. I don't know. I just want to cover all the aspects of this ultra stuff, and where you get at in your brain. Let's face it, when we run these long stuff, a lot of times we're by ourselves. We have a lot of thinking to do. And a lot of times that thinking isn't the best stuff in your head. For me, I swear, once I start thinking, I always say it's the devil talking in your head. Once he starts talking, you have all that time, miles and miles and hours, a lot of the time, to justify that what he is saying makes sense. Right?
Absolutely.
So that's what I would like to get away from. Is as soon as he starts talking, well, slap him in the head and say, get the hell out of him.
Exactly.
And it sounds like it should be easy, but it's not. But anyway, the whole idea of running 100 miles or any ultra or any race. I'm not saying you have to run ultras, but the longer stuff, you tend to get in your head more. But running it solo doesn't give you anybody to complain to. And this is just my thinking. It's just the way my head works. But when I don't have anything to complain about or whine about or be negative about, maybe I won't be any of those things. I don't know if that makes any sense, but so if I know I'm not, there's nothing there, the next aid station I always look forward to, because my kid might be there, my daughters might be there, my wife might be there, or my crew, who somebody else gracious enough to help me is going to be there. I look forward to that every mile I go, but that might be my downfall sometimes too. So if I don't have that to look forward to, the only thing I've looked forward to is the finish line.
Yes.
And maybe that, I don't, I'm just thinking out loud here at this point, but maybe Absolutely. That will help me mentally get through the race better, sadly, than having my loved ones or people I know help me, air quotes, during the race.
It help you build that mental strength. Is that what you're saying?
I'm saying I might be able to build my mental strength better without me there.
Without the help, doing it on your own and being forced to do it on your own. That could be. Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, the thing is that our minds are so powerful. And I know in an ultra, there can be many low lows and many high highs, and that is normal. And I've seen people quit when I know they've got more in them. And I've seen, all kinds of things and people going through those emotional lows. And I know what it feels like personally. And I think, we go to the gym to exercise our bodies, to get our bodies, and to prevent us runners, we prevent our bodies from injuring. And yet we don't exercise our minds, and our minds are the thing that can hold us back. And our minds are often trying to keep us safe. They're trying to protect us. And yet they hold us back, especially when running a 100-mile race, right? It's, of course, the brain's going to try and talk you out of doing it.
Right.
But, I find what can be helpful is if you connect with your higher self, the you that signed up for the race, the you that you really are, like deep down inside, you can know that, no, I do want this. And, you can really connect with those positives and tune out the mind and just keep going.
Right. Good. I like it. So as a life coach, what exactly does a life coach entail?
That's a great question. So life coaching is really about accountability. It's like having a thinking partner, and that thinking partner helps you like listens to you and helps you move forward towards your goals. So it's really about moving forward. It's about talking out, a problem, something that you're struggling with, and helping you move forward towards where you really want to be. And a life coach can offer different perspectives as well, and really just help you get out of your own way, see your own blind spots, and also be that person who is there to really listen and understand what you're going through.
Gotcha. Makes sense. So somebody that's interested in hypnotherapy, this is your chance to plug your business. Where do they find yourself?
So I have a website, leadingedgehypno.com. And I'm on Facebook as well. I'm also on Instagram. And I have a YouTube channel called Hypno Holly as well.
Okay, excellent.
So there's a few ways to find me.
Are you doing Divide 200 next year?
I'm tempted.
Are you?
I'm tempted. I think I'm going to be pacing a friend again, but I will plan on doing it eventually. I'm definitely going to work my way up there.
And that'll be your first 200, I assume?
Absolutely. Absolutely. How about you?
No.
No?
Not next year. Maybe in the future. And I will say, obviously we're a couple weeks out now, but I'm definitely at the point. I'm still totally fine with the decision I made of dropping at that point. The week I had there was amazing. I would agree. We had a phenomenal time up there. I would go back.
That's awesome.
I'd love to go back to that area and just on vacation for another week. It's phenomenal. But I would say I know deep inside I shouldn't have dropped when I did. That was the first major, big DNF at any big race. But anyway, I'm not torn up about it.
And it was all mental.
And I know that for anybody, 99% of the time it is mental. I think everybody listening probably knows that on this show. But it is what it is. Like I said, I don't really regret it, but I am sitting here now saying, yeah, I could have definitely finished that. It's at the time I didn't want to walk that distance. Anyway, enough of that.
Absolutely. Well, it's definitely something to explore. I know I did a last man standing race, and I was the last woman standing, and there was 2 other guys running, and I knew that they were elite runners. And I let myself off the hook by running slow enough that I wouldn't make the next yard. And at the time I was like, oh yeah, I did the best I could, but I knew that I let myself off the hook. And I think that knowing that and recognizing that, like you are now, there's an opportunity to explore that and to figure out for yourself what went on, and then you can move and learn from that.
Yeah, I mean, it happens quite a bit, and like I don't know if I talked to you about it at all, but I feel like personally for me, and I've said it on the show, it's my mental game is getting weaker the longer I'm in the running sport. The more I do, I feel like my mental strength is weakening as far as, letting the devil in and listening to his voices and things like that. And being okay with it. You can come up with a million reasons why it's okay to stop running the race. Obviously your crew is going to tell you they're all wrong, but when you're out there for 50 miles in your head justifying why it's all right, it makes sense at the time, but I don't know. If I feel like a lot of ultra runners, that's the beauty of anything you do. The more you do it, the better you get at it, type of thing. Absolutely. And the running isn't the hard part for me. The distance isn't the hard part. The hills aren't the hard part. It's just staying in the mental game. Like I said, the hypnotherapy type thing intrigues me because, again, if nothing else, it's a tool that could help you, in my opinion. And why wouldn't you use that tool?
Absolutely. It's really could be just exploring what's going on a subconscious level. So consciously, often people know what's going on, but subconsciously there's something deeper. So when I started my business, I started as a life coach, but I saw that a lot of people consciously would have these breakthroughs, but subconsciously there was something deeper holding them back from actually moving forward. And when I got into hypnotherapy, I took those same clients, and now all of a sudden they're having these big breakthroughs and actually following through with what they wanted. So even bigger breakthroughs than before. So I am seeing a difference, but it's often there's something subconscious or deep rooted there. And I also wonder about, is there maybe a pattern there too, where you've let yourself off the hook? So the brain goes like, okay, I know what to do next time. I know how to pull you out. I know how to stop you. Right.
Yeah, that's interesting because I was hoping for the opposite. I mean, I still do not regret. I don't know. It's a hard word to use, but it doesn't bother me that I dropped out, but I hope that comes back to strengthen me in the future to say I'm never, at the next race, when the devil starts talking in my head, that I would say, well, I'm never doing that again, because I know I didn't have to. I didn't have to drop out of the race. I did because, I decided to, but I'm hoping that one DNF is enough to make me stronger.
Yes.
Maybe
Hopefully. Hopefully.
Effect. Yeah.
Absolutely. Well, and I guess what is that devil trying to do for you? What does the devil want for you? Like, cause that part of us that's holding us back often is trying to help us in some way. It's often not what we think. It's not trying to harm us. It's trying to keep us safe or protect us.
Yeah. Good stuff. I don't
know.
Yeah.
Something to think about.
It is. It's fun. I love talking about it and thinking about it, because it's all stuff you can't really ever figure out 100% necessarily, but you can definitely dig into it and maybe figure out why your brain's headed in different directions at certain times and for what reasons. I mean, for me, just talking about these longer distance races, ultra races, and Becky will 100% agree. I tend to get in a really deep, bad place very early on, in a lot of the times. DK mark, 20 to 30 miles. It's the first, low of the whole race.
It's usually the worst.
But it is the worst. And if I can get through that with the help of her and anybody else and keep moving, well, I'm quick to realize, well, crap, that was just a low period. And it gets really bad. Again, I justify reasons why this isn't going good. My training must have just not been good enough or whatever. But if I get through that, then the next, for example, 70 miles isn't too bad in a 100-miler.
So it's getting through that, and it's that low, right? That's really hard. And I think a lot of us go through it. And so I'd be curious what that low is and how maybe we can transform that feeling into something more positive.
Yeah. And I guess the reason that it bothers me so much is because I don't feel that low should be showing its face yet that early.
No.
100-miler, but yet it does for me for some reason. It's just like getting over that gap, that bad hill, and everything kind of evens out, and your body at least my body starts feeling like, oh, okay, so this is what we're doing for the next 24 hours. I get it now.
Absolutely.
That's just me. I mean, everybody's different.
Absolutely. Well, I think those lows are such great opportunities to learn and grow. Like I said, that one race that I let myself off the hook, it was because I felt like I didn't belong at the front of the pack. So then I started to tell myself and use like the hypnotherapy and the visualization techniques as well, that I belong here. And all of a sudden that totally shifted for me. And I was running, closer to the sometimes mid front, right? But for me, that was huge. That was a huge progress forward to go from here to here, and especially changing that mindset. So I believe that you can do it. And, we have there's that tale of the two wolves, where there's, the dark one that's inside of you that's kind of negative, and then there's the positive one that's light within you, and the one that wins is the one that you feed.
I like it.
And so the more I think that you practice feeding the light wolf, we'll say, I wonder if it will shift for you.
Sometimes all we ever need is just somebody in our life to be constantly positive and tell us we can do it.
That too. But what happens if you don't have that person around, right?
Holly.
Right.
Yeah. Or that part of the race where you can't have a pacer.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, that's where you come in, right?
Absolutely.
Nice. So how far did you end up making it in that last man standing race?
19 yards.
Okay. What was that? What's that for mileage? I'm not good at math. 80 something. 70. Pretty far.
I was gonna say yeah, but I think it's about 130K, but I'm not sure what that is in
Oh
miles.
man,
We're talking K over here.
me. I'm over a kilometer to mile.
Hurts my brain.
Yeah, we've done a couple of. I've done 2 of them. The first one I made it 80 miles. Second one I made it 70. Again,
He struggles.
we don't have to keep going, but yeah, I love the format idea, but I don't feel like I have the mental capacity and the brain strength to do it, mental strength to do a good job. I love the format though. I think the people that do amazing at it. It's so much harder than it sounds.
I like that. I would like to do another one.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
You went 100 plus, right?
I went 125.
Yeah.
Wow, that's amazing.
Yeah. But
miles.
Miles.
Yeah.
That's really good.
I don't know how far that is in
No.
miles.
All right. You mean kilometers? Yeah.
4 kilometers.
Well, I believe like if I can do it, because I used to be mentally very hard on myself. Like I'd be going up a hill and suffering and thinking everybody in my, like just these negative thoughts that would spiral in my mind. And now that doesn't even really enter my mind. And if it does during a race, it's usually because I need like food.
Yeah.
So honestly, if I can do it, I think you can too. And I think it's really it's just like lifting weights at the gym. It's like building those muscles, right? And it takes time, but the more that you do it, the better at it that you become.
Yeah. Good stuff. Well, I appreciate you being on. I'm sure I'm going to be in touch with you at some point to talk.
That would be awesome.
Go
Love
from
to
there.
do that.
I love hearing your mindset and how it all works, and I hope others reach out to you also.
Absolutely. I always offer a free consultation, so feel free to reach out and we can at least talk about it and talk about options and how it works. And I know there's a lot of questions around hypnotherapy, so happy to answer any questions as well.
Great. Thanks for being on. What's next for you as far as your running goes? What's your big thing?
I'm going to do the Orcas Island 100 miler. So that's end of February, I believe.
We had a couple do that. It wasn't the 100 mile. What are the other options? 50? Is there a 50 miler?
I think so.
I don't know.
I didn't look at the other option.
They went out there for a runcation type thing, and that both husband and wife did the whatever lower distance they had, but they said it was phenomenal.
Oh, good. That's good to know.
Just the views and where you're at and things like that.
It looks amazing.
Yeah. We'll have to put that on our to-do list at some point.
Absolutely.
Well, I hope to see you again in person when I'm not near death or feeling point.
Absolutely. It'd be nice to see you both in person one day. I'm sure we will.
I hope we get back up there, and we'll definitely hook up with you.
Absolutely. That would be awesome.
Well, thanks,
Thank
Allie.
you.
Thanks for being on, and I will put the leadingedgehypno.com, right? Is that what it was?
Yes.
What's the website?
Yes, leadingedgehypno.com.
Okay.
That's right.
I'll try to put that in the show notes so everybody can find you and go from there.
Awesome. Well, thanks for having me. I appreciate it. I love talking about this, and I know how important it is. So
interesting concept for sure.
Absolutely. It is interesting.
All right, everyone. Well, thanks for joining in and listening. And if you listen on the podcast form, make sure you like, share, and comment whenever you can, because it helps the show grow. Just like every single other podcast is telling you at the end of their shows. It matters. So have a good night. Have a good week. Holly, thanks again for being on. And
my pleasure.
Talk to you soon. Bye.
Bye.